Now our main goal is to adjust the exposure or get the exposure, the look, how we want. For example, if you want to make a dramatic cinematic scene, then this image is really well exposed. But in my opinion, I think that there's a lot of darks here, you know, there's a lot of shadows under her face, because this is a travel vlog and I want to be happy, bright. And as I can see here, even in the main exposure, that there's a lot of shadows in this area. You can see there's a lot of reds and blues and greens. It's all peeking down. Our main goal usually is to bring the image in this range. If it's too narrow, I'll give you an example. Let's say for this image is shot in log. Yeah, I hope I'm not going too fast. You can see the parade in this image. This looks a bit more desaturated here, and you can see here as well that the parade is just this little. Our main goal should be to expand the parade as much as possible, but still not go overboard, still stay in the limit, because if you go outside the limit it becomes too bright or too dark. But yeah, let's go to we will be color grading this image as well. It's really special image and it would be really fun to color grade, but let's go to here. So let's go to our master frame. Let's just make sure that you have the face of the subject visible. And yeah, now I would add another node. So I would go Option plus S or Alt plus S, and I would go exposure. And here what I would be doing is I would be increasing maybe the shadows a little bit, because I think it's too dark. So shadows are here. Go increase the shadows. So there's 4 wheels here. One is offset. As I told, it increases the whole exposure of the image. We don't want that. There's gain, gamma, and lift. So gain would be increasing the exposure of the brighter areas. So for example, if I change the gain, you can see here that this area would get more exposed, not this area. So if I go bright, 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 you can see that the first thing which is peeking out is the clouds, because they were already on the highlights area. You see the face is looking really normal now, but everything else just falls apart in the back. And then gamma is increasing the mid-tone. So gamma would be more increasing the light in this area. So you see that it's also making the image a bit more desaturated, but the clouds are not peeking out now, you see? And the lift is just gonna increase all the dark areas. So it wouldn't do anything here, but if we increase, you see the window here, you see all the shadows here on her face as well. So you can see that lift is increasing. And as I change the lift, you can see that the whole parade is lifted from 0 to here. In the beginning it was like this. It's still not bad. In some image the lift is somewhere here when it's really dark. So that you need to really keep an eye on. If you have your own images, you can always see that the image is really dark, all the lift would be all the way here. So that's how the lift is changing the parade. If I reset it, and then if you go gamma, gamma increases all the midsection. You see, it goes up. It's also increasing the lift. And if I go gain, then you can see that all this would just fall out. You see the blacks and the lifts are still intact here. The only thing going up is the brightness. These are still almost, the darkness is still here. Not that much, but it's still there. And if you go offset, that increases the entire graph up. So yeah, that's how you can use these tools to expose the image. Let's expose it now. Pretty good. So I don't think I would be needing too much exposure, but let's expose it according to my subject's face. So until now we have just done the white balance, exposure. Oh, we did something in exposure. See, if I go before and after, I can see, because I did something in shadows. I almost forgot. So let's reset it and let's try to expose her face well. So you see, if I go here like that, whole clouds are blowing up. So what I would do, go increase the shadows a little bit. Maybe increase the lift very little. I don't think we need it. And also the thing with increasing lift is that reduces the contrast in the image, because an image looks really nice and poppy if it has like also good blacks and good highlights. But that we're gonna take care of it later. I think the shadows are a bit too much. So you can see before and after, it's already looking pretty decent. And would I do anything with gain? If If I go a little bit up, you see, even if I go a little bit up, things are going out of control. So this thing is already peaking here. You can see the clouds going up. So don't freak out, just hang in there. I'm just checking the subject's face, how good exposed is it. Maybe reduce the shadows a little bit. So now the subject is looking really good, but you can see that the whole clouds are falling apart. But we're gonna take care of that later. So in this image, that was needed. We increases the gain a little bit because overall image was still, this is before, was still a bit dark, but then the clouds were there, so clouds are just blowing out. And we increase the lift a tiny bit because there was a lot of shadows here, and then we increase the shadow, because if we didn't, then there would be a lot of shadow under our face. There's a lot of shadows here, there's some shadows there. So now the image looks a little bit bright, the clouds, we're going to take care of it. So that's how you can increase or reduce the exposure of an image. I can give you another example. Say for example this image, we did white balance here, right? This is before, after. I would add another node, and then we have node label exposure. This image would be a little bit fun to expose because I don't think there would be something peaking, but let's see. So here what you can see is that there's a lot of darks. You see a lot of blacks. These are all blacks here, all darks. Then on the top, the sky here looks super exposed, but we still have some room for our exposure to go up to make it look a bit more decent. So if we increase the gain, you see we increase it until it blows out. So if we go up, 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 you can see that the image looks really bad here on this side. Also you can see here in the corner. But so we would go just until the top. So here's the thing. The main goal of us is to get the most out of the image. And that's what we are trying to do here without it falling apart. And now I still see there's a bit of difference between the blues and the reds. So what I would do, I would increase the warmth again and then go push the exposure again. So that looks nice. And what I would do, I would just scroll down in the parade, and I can see that there's a lot of shadows up here. So I would increase the shadows and see if we can get something out of it. So you see, because it's a 10-bit image, we can do all this. If it was a really crappy footage from a 10-year-old smartphone, we couldn't do all this. There would be so much grains. So yeah, that's why it's also kind of handy to have a good quality image. And that's what they advertise with the new iPhones or new Samsungs, that can film in 4K, 10-bit or in 4K Apple log. So that's the thing, what you can do with high quality footage. If it's shot in really good light, you put a color grade, it's really fine. But if the exposure is not that great, then you can still do a lot of settings. You can tweak the settings without your audience knowing it if it was in good quality. And that's why cinema cameras are so expensive, because mine is 10-bit. Sometimes cinema cameras is 12-bit, 14-bit. And in that image, you can literally light the entire image without making it falling apart. So this is how it looks after exposure. What a difference. So here you can see that the reds are still a bit low, but I don't think it really matters, because here you can see that all the shadows has been lifted. So this shadow tool is really magical. If I want to lift the lift, you can see that it's good, but it's also, you see, if I go too much, it's kind of bringing that grayish look, which I don't want. I still want the audience to look like it was shot during sunset. So maybe I would actually bring the lift a little bit low. So it's still there is some contrast left in the image. With gamma, I don't really use it much, but what we did in conclusion here was we increased the gain. I can see here that the gain is falling apart because of this. So I would go just a little bit just here. So now it looks really fine. You don't see the image falling apart here. Everything is looking well exposed. And then we increase the shadows, because this was how it was looking before. We increase the shadows, and then we actually reduce the lift because we still want to keep the contrast in the image. You can also push it a bit more down, but then it's going to come back to the same place where we started. So I would just leave it here. So Now what you can do, if you want to see the before and after of the entire image, you can go here. You see this colorful stars and the circle. You can go close. So that was before, this is after. Or with the shortcut, what you can do Option D or Alt D, and this was before and then this is after. So this I always do when I'm color grading. It's just so satisfying to watch. So that was an example of how you expose a dark image. Here in this section, I'm going to be teaching you how to increase the saturation of an image. So you might be thinking that I'm bringing different clips. So all these clips are provided in the color grading folder, so don't worry about that. You can just put them in the timeline and just try these little experiments with me, because yeah, I think it's really nice to practice this on your own as well, so that you can get a hand of DaVinci Resolve and how everything works. So yeah, let's if you have this clip on, you can also just color grade with me. So here we go. White balance, I don't think I need to change any white balance, so I would just note label white balance. Yeah, using shortcut, exposure, and then if I have to do highlights, then I do highlights. If not, then I don't. So here I would do color boost. So white balance, I wouldn't change anything. I would maybe change the exposure. So I just reduce the lift, because I think that there's still a bit of contrast that can come. You can see that the sky is falling out, but we're gonna take care of that. That's what we learned. So we go white balance, exposure, then I have to put another node here. And in this node, what I can do, if I go to clips, and where was the sky? So if I had the sky thing here, what we did with the highlights, I can just copy these settings. So if I go Command C or Control C, copied the settings in the node, and then I go to this image, what we were editing now, sky is blown out here, I would do Command V or Control V, and the settings is pasted here. So yeah, you don't have to do it again and again. You can also just copy and paste the setting from a particular node. So our main goal was, of course, first to check the white balance, then to check the exposure. And let's do before and after, Option D or Alt D. This is before, this after. Not really crazy changes. But then in my opinion, this image looks a little bit desaturated, all the grass and everything. So what I would do, I would increase the saturation. And how do you increase the saturation is not by the saturation, because if I increase it, you can also see that the image is getting a little bit brighter. You see the clouds are already popping out a little bit, and it just looks not that natural. So I would just go Control Z, Control Z. No, this was at 50. Let's do it 50. I would go with color boost. What color boost does is that it increases the saturation of the image, but in a really gradual way. So if I go to about not that much, I usually maybe just keep it to 10 or so. So let's just increase it. Of course, it's a lot, but if we just reduce it down to say 11 or 14, then I go full screen, Command F or Control F. Now if you go before and after, this can be the master frame. You can see the color of the shorts. There's a little bit of pop in the image. Also the grass is a little bit, lively. If you want, you can increase more. Maybe 23. Now it looks pretty decent. So you see, with one little color boost tab, you can just make the image so different. And before and after, Option D, Alt D. This was before the entire image. This is after. You see, just with a little bit of tweaking, we can do so much. In this image, we don't really need to increase the saturation, because what's going to happen is the red would blow out. Yeah. What we can do to tackle that is we go to Option S, and here what we would be doing is, remember the qualifier tool, what I told you? We go to the qualifier tool here, and then now what we're going to do, we're going to select all the reds in the image. So we go click on the red, nothing happens because we don't know what is selected. You can see then in the node here, there's a little bit of red. But what I would be doing is I would just press the highlight here. So here you can see the reds in the image. And if I, so here are the range of the red. So if I increase the range, that's gonna select all the pinks, but there's no pink. Here the red comes. Yeah. So I would maybe just go from this range to this. And then for saturation, I wouldn't go this all the way here. So if I see that now it's also selecting the face, and I also don't want it to select the inner jacket because that's a different red. Maybe let's reduce it. Or maybe I just keep it until here as long as the face is not chosen. And then with luminance, if I increase the whole thing, let's see how it looks. And if I reduce the, so you have to really play around and select the things what you really desire to select. So I think I would just choose the red. So if you scroll the image all the way, then you can see that just the reds are selected. So that's what you can also do with qualifier. And then it's all gonna make sense. What am I doing? And then here what you can do is that blur radius, because now you can see that the edges are really hard. So you can, introduce a bit of blur on the edges. Also in and out ratio, you can introduce a bit of blur on the in and out. So if you see here, if I go in and out, you can see the edges changing a little bit. I wouldn't do too much. Also with the blur, you see if you do too much, then it's also affecting the outer areas. I would maybe just stay here, and then I would just press Z, normal size. And then what I would do now is I would reverse the selection. So now everything is selected is reds in the image. And now if I reverse it, which is with invert, yeah. So then if I just go to here just to see the face clearly. So what I'm going to do after we have selected the reds in the image, what I'm going to do, I would increase the color boost saturation, and that would only do color boost in the areas where it's needed. So you can see that the grass is going up, the face color, I'll just get rid of the clip, the face color is changing, but the reds are not going too crazy. So you see now the face looks a bit more lively. It was a bit desaturated before, it looks a bit more lively, but the jacket saturation is the same how it was before. If I go before and after, there's literally no change. But if I go before and after in the face, this was after, this is before, you can see the change in the color of the face. So that's how you can do color boost, change the colors and increase the saturation of the image. But if you not change the saturation of certain colors but still change the saturation of the image, then you can use qualifier tool. And you can use qualifier tools for a lot of things. For example, if I want to increase the brightness of the image, I can increase the brightness of the entire image, but the red would remain intact. Same as if I want to make the image darker, the red still stays, but the whole image is changing. So that's when, qualifier tool can be really handy. Or if I want to change the hues of the entire image, the red stays the same and the whole image changes. So that was color boost. And of course, I have talked about why not to use saturation. Highlights, I don't really use it because highlights has almost the same function as gain. So highlight, I don't use it. Saturation, I don't use. Hues, it's not really needed because then, it changes the color of the entire image. I would just reduce the highlight. Luma mix, I don't use it at all. But there's one tool what I use here quite often is the midtones and details. So if I just zoom in the face of my subject here, so you see that the face looks a bit sharp because of the digitalization of mirrorless. Mirrorless cameras, they have this weird sharpness, which I don't really like. So what I do is that I reduce down the details of the image. See if I go, say let's go a bit more extreme, -36. So before and after, you see this, before and after. Let's see the entire image. Oh, I shouldn't select it because the qualifier is there. Let's go to see the entire image. This is before, this is after. It's a little bit too soft, but I usually do it to 24. But this making soft thing, I do it all the way in the end because we still have a lot of things to do and that's not the priority at the moment. And then if you do it in the end, then you can see that how this softness fits on the entire image. So I would just reset node. So yeah, this is what I do until now. So I usually start with white balance and exposure. Then if something is crazy highlighted, I take care of that. And then we have color boost, but then we use here qualify tools because this jacket is already so red and the other things were not that saturated in the image. So that's why I use this technique. But yeah, our main goal is to make the image looking nice. And once it looks nice, then we can start, using some colors or changing some colors or giving it a certain look. So yeah, that's how you can make the image a little bit poppy.